By the way, I'm so excited to have David Garofalo. David Garofalo and I have spoken off the air. He is a chairman and CEO of a company called Gold Royalty Corporation.
Oh, man.
Their stock symbol is GROY on the New York Stock Exchange. We got their number from a good friend of mine, Trey Washer. Trey Washer was a regular guest who was our gold expert for many years. He's coming back, actually, as a gold expert.
Right.
But here's a public company to talk about the gold business, because we don't have anybody to talk about the current macroeconomic sort of structure with respect to gold. Gold is thought of a hedge against inflation, but here we have, for your pleasure, David Garofalo. David, how are you, sir? Good to see you, man.
I'm well. Thanks for having me on.
So sorry you had to go through that Michael karaoke bar thing. But this is why Wall Street Journal calls us business with a barroom slant.
Yes. He's going to tell me buy bronze, Costa, buy bronze.
Can I ask you this? Gold has gone in favor, out of favor, in favor again. And it was once thought of as a hedge against inflation. And there was some people that were arguing about that. Give us the state of the union of the gold business, because I'm here to tell you, the gold business is not about exploration or mining. If you are the smartest guy in the room, you're in gold royalties. and David knows what I'm talking about. Talk about just the business overall, just as an economic function. Let's talk about what you guys do.
Well, what we do is we own royalties on active mines, exploration stage assets, development stage assets. So we have top line exposure. We have a percentage of the revenue, and we're insulated from the operating capital costs. That's the responsibility of the operator. We provide capital to them. We take a royalty back in return, and the royalty is perpetual. It stays on the property for forever. Even as they conduct exploration on the project, grow the reserves, our royalty extends to the growth in the reserves. But we don't pay for the exploration. We don't pay for the operation. We just basically harvest a return off the top line.
Hey, David, let me ask you something. That means you guys have to have a good picker, right? For you to get involved in a mine or an exploration deal, for you to fund that thing and then take royalties, you've got to have a good picker. How do you do that? What's the secret sauce there?
Well, there are a lot of people around my C-suite, around my boardroom table that have similar experience to me. I'm 34 years in the business, and I've spent most of my career actually building and operating mines. And I have people in my boardroom, in my C-suite, that did exactly the same thing. So we understand how operations are built. We understand the inherent risk. We can price it appropriately to make sure we get a good return on the capital we deploy with the operators. And also, because of that collective experience, we have 400 years of industry experience collectively within my board of management. That gives us unfettered access to everybody in the business. It's not that big an industry. I know everybody in the industry. My board knows everybody in the industry. And that's afforded us opportunities to grow very quickly. We've gone from 18 royalties in our IPO to 240 plus royalties today. And we've only been public for 3 years. So we've grown exponentially because of that access and our ability to pick good deposits that we can put capital to work with.
Hey, David, going back just for a second, I probably should have started with inflation. Inflation plays very well into your model, does it not?
It does, and gold is a very accurate barometer of inflation. And gold is at all-time highs in every major currency in the world, because there's been a massive amount of monetary stimulus introduced into the system, not just recently during the COVID crisis, but really going back to the great financial crisis in 2008, when there was a massive expansion of money supply to stave off what would have been a depression. And it just perpetuated itself over a number of years, where we had effectively zero nominal interest rates for well over a decade with low inflation, and money supply kept expanding to keep the party going on the stock markets. And now that's come to roost. Yeah. And all we needed was a spark to light the fire. And the spark was COVID. That's what really introduced inflation back into the system.
To your point, if you look at a graph going back to 1940, anytime we pump money in the system, it's followed by high inflation. It's a quid pro quo. You get money in the system, inflation follows it. I mean, you go all the way back. It's almost like predicted. I remember when they pumped money in the system in 2020. You knew there was going to be crazy inflation. That played well for you. Back to the picker thing, because in simple terms, your royalty and streaming company picks acquisitions, just like a biotech would pick acquisitions, right? Low debt, high value. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I know for sure. What we're looking for is deposits with great geological potential and good jurisdictions with an operator that's actually done it before, a well-capitalized operator, and we're trying to put money to work with them in an environment where it's been very difficult for mining companies to raise capital for big projects. So we provide an alternative source of capital, and we're a permanent part of their capital structure. They don't have to pay it back. They just have to basically pay us in kind with streams and with royalties over the course of the mine life. So as the mine produces, we get paid back in the form of royalties.
David, you mentioned the geological aspect of your business. What right now, as far as you know, the experts you deal with, and you being an expert yourself, what area of the world is giving us the most gold?
It's in our backyard.
No kidding. Really?
Nevada is still great. It's one of the most prolific geological districts in the world for gold. Quebec in Canada, Ontario, British Columbia. You don't need to go far afield to find good geological prospectivity. And the advantage of being in those jurisdictions, of course, is you have rule of law. Your royalties are recognized. At the end of the day, a royalty company is just a collection of contracts, right? And if we don't have a legal framework to respect the sanctity of those contracts, we don't want to be in those jurisdictions. I don't care how good the geological potential is.
Makes sense. You know, it's interesting that Nevada is giving us the most gold because Mike gives the most gold to a certain city in Nevada, which is completely. Hey, before I let you out of here, and by the way, will you come back with us? I would love to have you back on a regular basis.
This is an hour show.
No, it is.
Just him
David
alone.
Garofalo, Gold Royalty Corp, stock symbol GROY. What are you looking forward to most for the rest of 2024? Can you talk about it as a CEO of a public company?
Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to a bid in the commodity. We haven't seen gold really surge the way I think it should. We're in an inflation cycle unlike anything we've seen since the 1970s, and I think it's far worse than what we had in the 1970s. So I think gold is going to catch a bid here.
Good stuff. David Garofalo, Chairman, CEO, Gold Royalty Corp, GROY. David, looking forward to having you back. Thanks, buddy. Good stuff.